You know that feeling when you're trying to get your head around something really complex, but there's so much stuff. It can feel a bit like wading through mud, can it?
Uh-huh. Definitely.
Well, this deep dive, the idea is to give you that aha moment, without all the overwhelm. Today, we're jumping into this fascinating world where art meets philosophy. Specifically, how the artist Bob Camblin explored, well, perception, reality, even enlightenment.
Yeah, it's deep stuff. And to help us navigate, you've shared two really interesting sources. First, we've got some bits from a YouTube transcript looking at Camblin's painting Backyard 101, which
Ding.
visually just pulls you right in. And then the second source, it's broader, a PDF with Camblin's own quotes,
Great.
writings, biographical stuff too. Gives you a much richer picture,
Backyard 101. Yeah, even the name makes you think, doesn't it? Like the familiar, but
Yeah.
different. The painting, like the transcript says, it's a forest at night, but it's not your typical woods scene.
Not at all.
Imagine this big, like translucent cloth just draped in the trees, almost like a veil between worlds, kind of shimmering. And then these glowing orbs floating around in the dark. Gives off this soft, almost magical light.
Hmm.
It feels like you've stumbled onto something secret, hidden right there. And the transcript links it up with Zen philosophy, even the I Ching.
Exactly. And that PDF, the one with his writings, it's almost like stepping inside his head. You get these amazing little snippets, his thoughts on, well, everything. Art, philosophy, just everyday things that clearly sparked his ideas.
Right.
Plus, the bio stuff helps you sort of place the man behind the art, understand his journey a bit. He seems quite enigmatic.
Definitely. So our mission then for this deep dive is to pull out those key ideas from both sources. Find those surprising connections, those moments that really give you a clear, concise grasp of the big themes Camblin was wrestling with in his art and his words.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting with Backyard 101 and that whole mystery of the veil.
Yeah, the imagery in Backyard 101 is, well, it's powerful right off the bat. You've got the forest, which seems normal enough, but then these elements, the cloth, that veil between worlds, as the video calls it,
Great name for it.
those glowing orbs, they just stand out.
Right. And the video transcript flags that veil immediately. It's a key Zen idea, apparently. It's not just, a piece of fabric in the painting. It's a metaphor.
Uh-huh.
A metaphor for the barriers in our own minds, the things that stop us seeing clearly, reaching enlightenment. That cloth is like, it represents the illusions that kind of fog up our understanding. So for you listening, maybe the takeaway is Camblin asking, visually, what's obscuring your view?
What I found really interesting was the interpretation of the orbs. They're not just pretty lights. They're meant to symbolize moments of satori.
Satori.
Yeah, think of satori as these like sudden flashes, brief but really powerful glimpses of a deeper reality, a sudden understanding that just clicks everything into place. So these orbs in the painting, they drift, they appear, they disappear. A bit like those moments of insight in our own lives. They might be quick, but they stick with you.
That makes sense. And then there's this link to the I Ching hexagram 57 sun, gentle wind.
Right, the gentle wind.
Now, a breeze in a night forest, you might just think, okay, atmosphere, but the transcript goes deeper. Sun represents subtle influence, stillness. So those orbs floating silently, subtly changing the feel of the painting, they're compared to the power of that gentle wind. It's about how big changes, real understanding can actually come quietly. No big drama needed.
And here's where it gets really interesting for the listener. That veil, it's not shown as this solid wall you can't get through.
Nah.
It's more like a reminder of the power in subtlety, in patience. The transcript suggests enlightenment isn't always about smashing down walls. Sometimes it's more like a quiet, unfolding understanding, emerging.
Exactly. It totally flips the idea of a veil. It's not about blocking things out. It's about encouraging you to look closer, to see that clarity can come through just watching, being open.
Yeah.
It really pushes this idea that life's big mysteries aren't hidden miles away. They're often right here, just separated by these veils we create ourselves, these filters in our perception.
And Camblin's artistic choices really back this up. The transcript mentions chiaroscuro, that light and shadow play.
Creates that depth.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the draped cloth. It's seen as maybe a modern take on Renaissance drapery. You know, how painters used drapery back then to suggest something divine or a threshold between worlds.
Oh, interesting. Like he's taking that old technique and giving it this surreal, almost dreamlike twist. So for you listening, what kind of threshold is this in Backyard 101? Is it between consciousness states, visible and invisible, like the video suggests? It's definitely more than just trees.
That surreal connection is key, I think. It shifts the painting from just being nature into being a metaphor. It invites you into the subconscious, the stuff that's harder to grasp.
Right. Okay, so Backyard 101 is like this visual nudge. Look deeper. Now let's switch to Camblin's own words from that PDF. The range of topics he covers is just wow.
It really is. He just jumps between seemingly different fields, like in that quote, look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both.
That's such a unifying thought for you to chew on. It suggests this deep connection underneath everything, doesn't it? Whether it's physics or, well, magic. You're tapping into the same core truth that fuel philosophy and art. It just blurs those lines between rational and intuitive.
It really speaks to his search for what he called the perfectly average view. He wasn't about extremes. He wanted to find that common ground where science and magic could, coexist, maybe even inform each other. He hoped for this intensely bright gray where they might meet.
A bright gray, I like that image. Not one winning, but this vibrant space where they both add something, and then he throws in. The sixth sense is to be without a doubt. Senza dubio, no doubt.
That's fascinating, isn't it? The certainty. He doesn't say maybe or perhaps. It's definitive. Makes you wonder what he meant by sixth sense and why he was so sure. Was it intuition? A deeper connection? Something else entirely?
Yeah, it definitely points to knowing things beyond the usual five senses. He also talks about that complex tie between our inner selves and the physical world. Bright day, and I soar, how cruel that my soul is attached to this earth, and yet you can almost feel that pull, that tension.
Absolutely. That fundamental human thing, wanting transcendence but being stuck, physically here. And then he brings it back to basics. I cannot tell a lie to myself for very long. He really hammers home that need for inner honesty, which ties into his later advice about finding something in nature that makes you feel complete and then just surrendering to it.
That idea of surrendering to nature connects to maybe finding wholeness, letting go of the ego a bit. He follows that with this really strong bit about our inner compass. The light is all you need. The end is to evolve by doing the best you can. The means is to amplify what you're doing and believe. For you, maybe that's a reminder to trust your own gut feeling.
It's like a mini philosophy for life and art, isn't it? Trust your inner light, focus on growth through effort, and then boost your actions with belief. It's quite empowering, actually.
He also gets into these balancing acts. Balance itself, patience, freedom, silence. He sees them as key for staying grounded, navigating away from pain, and then this almost paradoxical idea about love turning into indifference for self-protection. That might be a challenging one for some listeners.
It's a very mature, maybe slightly sad observation about relationships, isn't it? The ways we sometimes shield ourselves, not necessarily feeling nothing, but setting up boundaries.
Then there's this great line, sublime in the ridiculous. Look for the forgotten, but become what you are, less only is. So much packed in there for you to unpack.
Totally. Finding the sublime in the ridiculous, it's a playful but deep way to see things. Looking for the forgotten suggests value in what's overlooked. And become what you are less only is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's about stripping away the non-essential stuff, the ego, to find your true self.
And this core question of what art is seems to have changed for him. He says, art for art's sake has become art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake. And that shows a big shift, right? From just aesthetics to something vital, personal. For you, it shows how an artist's drive can change.
Yeah, it suggests art wasn't just an intellectual thing for him. It was tied to his existence, his way of understanding life. He even tells us to step off the train of thought, to find a different kind of power, power that is no power, and do work that is not work. Maybe like finding that flow state you hear about.
That stepping off the train of thought definitely echoes some Eastern ideas. He also talks about holding opposing views, balancing and being for and against. We missed the clouds, and for a moment regretted it. Then, as lightning, the mind ripped out in flashes of variations to reach the still pond. That image, lightning then stillness, is so vivid.
It really captures those breakthrough moments, doesn't it? When the mind wrestles with contradictions, for and against, and then suddenly finds calm clarity, the still pond. The mist clouds might be distractions that fall away before the big insight.
And then this really direct advice. When you think, don't act. When you act, don't think. It's about being fully in the moment, right? Whether contemplating or doing. Avoid getting stuck hesitating or overthinking.
It nails that balance between thinking and doing, and knowing when to commit to each. He follows that with this funny little observation, someone talking about changing the world, but then carefully counting out pennies for coffee. A good reality check may be relatable for you listening.
Then you get these incredibly sensory bits, like the cosmos waves as me with tree leaves, sun-heated air moves across the electrons of my skin. Sunlight reflects those greens, first white, then yellow-green, and in deep shadows, blue. It's like he's dissolving into nature, feeling it on a molecular level. It really shows the power of paying attention.
It's amazing observation, isn't it? He's not just seeing leaves, he's feeling the sun's energy on his skin. That intense sensory awareness seems core to his whole approach, artistically and philosophically.
He even includes this tiny three-act play on the tower. The white mountains, the cold wind, the lightning, and then abruptly, we'll leave before the show's over. That sudden stop is really intriguing, leaves you hanging.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? It's about how fleeting things are. Choosing to leave before the expected end, maybe a nod to impermanence. He definitely avoids easy answers.
And nature seems to be his grounding force. He writes, "The rain-soaked willows brought me to my senses." Just that simple line suggests this powerful moment of clarity coming back to himself. He also mentions one joy that exceeds all other but. Doesn't say what it is, creates this sense of something deeply personal, unspoken, makes you wonder.
The fact he doesn't name it makes it even more powerful, yeah. It invites you to think about your own ultimate moments of fulfillment. And then this subtle bit, not a leaf moves and yet we all feel the cool breeze, captures that feeling of something intangible but real, right? A shift you can't quite pin down.
Exactly, like sensing a change in the air that isn't just physical. And compared to frustrating arguments, he notes, much better than arguing is to look at my watercolor palette. For you, that shows the comfort and deep inspiration he clearly found in just making art.
Suggests he preferred the tangible act of creating over pointless debates. He also gives this interesting take on perception. White is light, black is absence of light, but people are seen. Simple, but makes you think about how we perceive people as more than just light and shadow.
He even talks directly to nature. Well, that's enough about me, Mother Nature. Let's talk about you. What did you think of my last picture? There's this lovely, playful intimacy there, like nature's a collaborator or an audience.
It really drives home that deep connection we talked about. Nature isn't just a subject for him, it's almost an active participant. He also captures these fleeting thoughts. 5 thoughts crashed at South Bleavet and Mandel, followed by this list of random images. Gives you a glimpse into that chaotic inner stream of consciousness.
And then these funny tips for ending arguments. With a pessimist, just agree. With an optimist, say, it's a banana. It's such an absurd way to just stop unproductive debates. He also wonders if people actually shrink in our perception visually or in memory, maybe relativity as they get further away. Raises interesting questions about perspective.
Yeah, it really digs into how subjective our perceptions are, how distance might change how we understand people. He even jokes about how trying to stop arguing just started another argument. So relatable, those ingrained human habits.
He then points out the big difference between just arguing or agreeing and actually communicating. Real understanding is maybe beyond just picking sides. And he uses this amazing metaphor, the open gate and broken fence, for searching without knowing exactly what you're looking for, but keeping faith and wanting to see it all at once.
That perfectly captures that uncertain journey of discovery, right? Artistic, intellectual, spiritual, whatever. The open gate and broken fence suggest no clear boundaries, just an ongoing search.
He also separates revolution from evolution. Revolution, he thinks, often comes from misunderstanding. Real, lasting change evolution needs understanding. And the key balance is found in individual minds, which maybe leads to collective change eventually.
That's a really insightful take on social change, isn't it? Stressing individual understanding as the foundation for progress. He also throws in that old saying, you never miss the water until the wells run dry. A simple reminder for you to appreciate what you've got.
Then these little snapshots, almost like haiku. 6 starlings sitting among broken branches. Look, no bugs are growing. And every day the clouds circle our tower as if we again were the intruders. They capture these quiet moments, but often with this undertone of humanity's impact.
They really show his skill at finding big meaning in small details, using really concise, evocative language. He even includes a bit from his Brian sketchbook 6 about trapped fish reflecting the human condition. That image really resonates, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. That feeling of being constrained by things beyond our control. And then this lovely, whimsical thought wanting to come back as a sun-shining fly. Just a light, imaginative take on existence.
Adds a nice touch of playfulness.
Yeah.
He also gives us these beautiful sensory lines like, darning needles sew shimmer-lined tapestries of blue, green, and white vans, and the more unsettling, bleached, textured, and white, to taste and sight, pray ever avoid the lamp fate. That last line feels like a real warning.
Yeah, avoid the lamp fate. Definitely has a sense of foreboding, like a moth to a flame. And then you get these super compressed thoughts, almost raw stream of consciousness. Canvas rectangle, summer light calligraphy, mystic incomplete, and the much wilder. Eater of Christians, chimera Byzantium warm, cold children's chair San Gimignano, calamari to oblivion. Strange ways of magic.
These fragments give you this unfiltered peek into his creative mind, right? Just throwing images and ideas together, leaving it up to you, the observer, to find connections. It's like seeing the process raw.
You also get these quick glimpses of people, the fragile grade lady, now tiptoe, now skirts high, sidewise, hasty retreat, and vivid sound images. Chalk, chalk, water tongue, chalk, chalk, sound of foot to stone, this marble island. Really brings scenes alive through sound.
Shows his amazing ability to capture not just visuals, but those fleeting moments, the sounds of a place. Marble Island really evokes isolation, but also permanence, doesn't it?
And then these incredibly rich bits. Veil of August's heat weaves the artist dragonfly. Banyan trees are flat fall. Waxen feathers. Flowers of burning petals. Raw Icarus. Such a mix of delicate and dramatic there.
That's a stunning passage for you listening. The artist dragonfly weaving the heat, the flat trees, and boom, falling wax, feathers, burning petals, and raw Icarus. That Greek myth of ambition and falling just hits you.
You see Icarus again. Feathered pharmacos between surrogate and sun Icarus depends. Oh, sandpiper, why do you dance at ocean's edge? Come, the water's fine. It feels like he's talking to figures in his own head.
He's creating these little scenes in his writing, using myth and nature to explore really basic human experiences. It's very skillful.
And then these grounding contrasts, huge summer waves next to men hauling nets, green rocks meeting blue water, followed right away by this poignant human note. First child, glory be, 7 years deprived, my dear, for economy. These little life details add such realism.
They really bring in the human element, don't they? Remind us of the everyday joys and struggles that make us who we are. Adds another layer to his philosophical thoughts.
He even has a wry comment on seeing ourselves. This strange mirror, bright face cupped between my hands makes me seem so young. We've all had that feeling, that trick of the light in the mirror.
It's simple, but so relatable how our perception plays tricks. And then he gets into this duality. White magic, white lies, thoughts of twisted limbs in mind, the hidden fear scene.
That contrast is stark, isn't it? The pure white magic versus deceptive white lies. Then those darker images of inner struggle, twisted limbs in mind, hidden fear. Quite thought-provoking for you. He also finds something profound in just this egg and brown leaves, that nothing changes.
That quiet observation speaks volumes about cycles, continuity under the surface of change, shows his knack for finding depth in the ordinary.
And then these fantastic images, ragged wheels of silk, minuscule dragons observed by Buddha spiders. This dragon never lived on paper or flowers? Well, perhaps next time. Such a cool blend of the everyday and the mythical.
Really highlights imagination in art, right?
Yeah.
Bringing things to life that don't exist physically. And Buddha spiders adds that Zen touch to the fantasy. Makes you think.
He also includes starker images like the jawless monster, cold marble sundial of the church, do the old men sleep, and the cyclical forward-looking. Weeds of last year crowd, shaking with lavender, spring winds, or just the first sign.
These create this sense of unease, make you think about time, death, but also renewal. The lavender in the weeds is that little hint of hope, maybe.
And vivid senses again. Blue pictures pulsing. The faded image breathes once. The tattooed hand waits. And that deep philosophical question. Seed pod, dragonfly, shriveled weed, or living thing, stirred by wind or God.
These phrases just ooze mystery, make you ponder unseen forces. The tattooed hand waits feels like a story paused mid-action, doesn't it?
Yeah. And again with unusual imagery. Blue model banquet, from the sea in summer come tide-washed necklaces and the nostalgic. Purple canals, golden palazzi. The rain muffles her crying. Along on longboat, memory of summer walks, I hear this is gone.
Paints these vivid, almost dreamlike scenes for you, blending beauty with this tangible sense of loss, the fleeting nature of memory.
And then Camlin's own raw honesty as an artist. The painted eye sees more than mine, and God damn it, I see nothing yet.
That moment of frustration, maybe humility, about his own limits compared to what the art could be.
Speaks right to that struggle, the elusive nature of true vision, acknowledging that the creation itself can reveal things the creator didn't even see at first.
He follows that frustration with this wonderful image, the strange device whirled by a figure of my mind, a beautiful dance, highlighting how the creative process can feel almost automatic, beyond conscious control.
It's like the art takes on its own life, guided by something deeper in the artist's mind. Really cool idea.
You also get more grotesque bits. Gargoyles, gargling water from Gothic churches. You miss me that time, and the fragmented memory. Off the shore, fragments of a memory are found, bones of Icarus. Back to that theme of ambition and failure.
These darker bits bring in the grotesque near misses, the way the past lingers in memory. Adds another texture. And back to personal sensation. Hammock facing west. Fingers knit to block the sun, become burning twigs. Just capturing that specific moment, the feeling of the sun.
Such a great image. Really paints a picture of that physical feeling, the sun getting stronger.
Camblin then reflects on nostalgia, suggesting its real purpose isn't just sentimentality, but stirring the archetype crevices of the reptilian brain, hinting at something deeper, more primal about memory.
Yeah, suggesting nostalgia taps into fundamental human patterns, not just feeling wistful about the past. Interesting take.
He makes this bold claim. The artist today is the only free agent, limited only by desire. Says a lot about the independence he valued. He even mentions participatory type of art, which feels very ahead of its time.
That participatory art idea really lines up with modern interactive art, moving beyond just looking passively, quite forward-thinking.
He then gets into his definitions of religion and belief, making that key distinction between believing something and truly knowing it, especially for the mystic. If you really know it deep down, he suggests you don't need proof.
He's really exploring faith here, how people understand the world, suggesting mystical knowing is beyond just logic, it's direct experience.
He touches on faith, discipline, communication, just being, how they can help or hinder understanding, and then this great paradox. Art is and it isn't, and now everyone knows. Love art. If experienced, no description is necessary, but often making out is confused with love, and feeling good is not always art.
That's such a nuanced take on art and love, right? True
Yeah.
experience doesn't need explaining, and fake versions get mistaken for the real thing all the time.
He stresses the balance of resist and submit, and introduces the figure four sequence. Seems like a metaphor for a cyclical journey, maybe with an infinite end.
The figure four, yeah, with its cycles of entering, retreating, multiplied mistakes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a metaphor for learning, growth, with the final understanding being hard to put into words.
He warns against the demon of being right and stresses just flowing with the moment. He even jokes about how historians love artistic madness long after the artist has moved on.
That's a sharp poke at how artists get mythologized. He also suggests we can actually train ourselves to open our perception instead of shutting down instinctively. Empowering idea.
He circles back to believing versus knowing through direct experience, especially the mystic's way. He thinks history becomes believable when it's creative, and that familiarity lets you go deeper than the surface.
He sees creativity as vital for understanding history and the world, and he defines cynicism pretty harshly as creativity gone wrong, destructive, ego-driven.
And he kind of laments the magic lost when we overanalyze everything instead of just experiencing, knowing. He uses that great metaphor, pushing up for slow-willed growth, like a tree.
It's a powerful image for that steady, often unseen effort needed for real growth, unlike quick fixes.
He sums up his art principles in these paradoxes. Draw, teach, search, reveal. He wants a return to a naive, uninhibited approach, free from history and critics, and this idea, identification is the aesthetic.
That's a really interesting thought for you listening, that your personal connection, what resonates with you, is what gives art its aesthetic value, not some external rule book.
He uses that funny analogy, an art critic is like a legless man teaching running, and emphasizes that basic human need to make marks even before tools for survival.
Really stresses that deep, instinctive drive for creative expression. It's fundamental to being human, he suggests.
He seems to think focusing too much on intention in art is tricky. Maybe better to just produce a lot of quantity over immediate quality as a way to explore. He even jokes artists leave Easter eggs for historians.
It's a playful way to think about art's long-term impact, how future people might see it. He calls artistic facility like the Midas touch, and wonders if empty art leads to critics trying too hard to fill it with meaning.
He notes visual arts becoming less visual and defines Zaz as aimless mind focusing. He says play the art game like your life depends on it, question fear when drawing.
He's really pushing for total immersion in creating, right?
Yeah.
Fearless, wholehearted, get past the blocks.
He breaks drawing into three types: action experiment, slow analytic, and conceptual. Each has its purpose. He stresses drawing and concepts are nonverbal and notes how powerful a simple idea can be in haiku form.
Highlighting the power of nonverbal communication in art and how simplicity can hit hard.
He talks about finding your mystic switch, that gut feeling of truth, even if truth changes. He says learn not just to look, but to see. And even try to fail to succeed, focus on the process, not fear of the outcome.
It's about deeper perception, intuition, and seeing failure as part of learning and growth. Really key ideas.
He links writing's origin in pictures to how syntax can limit nonlinear ideas and how we're conditioned to draw right. He urges, recreate. He thinks drawing, reading music, let the rational mind step back, letting the Zayazian mind bring hunches, inspiration, but don't push too hard for it.
Emphasizing tapping into that intuitive state, right? Letting insights emerge rather than forcing them.
Yeah.
Trusting the process.
He says, resist just learning in the old sense. Instead, learn to fail, relax, feel, really think. Big difference between learning something new and knowing more. He repeats, we have nothing to fear but fear ourselves and the Zen idea. We're all Buddha, we just forget.
Underscoring those internal barriers we build and reminding us of that potential for understanding within us all, even if we don't realize it.
He compares mirrors and people to magic. They reflect things in unexpected ways. He talks about the jump, where fish don't know water, birds don't know air, highlighting how blind we can be to our own environment.
Powerful analogy for our lack of awareness of the basics that shape us, isn't it?
He separates negative power magic from positive seeing magic. This seeing leads to deeper understanding. Art connects to the timeless parts of life, not just trends. He says real seeing can be deceptive, like a whirlpool, and art only captures a fraction of that experience.
Suggesting true perception is overwhelming, dynamic, and art is inherently just a partial snapshot of that complexity.
He advises, fool the eye, fool the mind, maybe to bypass our usual limited ways of seeing. He discusses the artist's dilemma, skill versus audience demand for novelty in a disposable art culture. Maybe anonymity is freedom.
Highlighting those pressures and contradictions in the art world that challenges artists navigate.
He notes, kind of sadly, the oversimplification of yin and yang into just a mandala, recalls the symbolist's thinking explaining something kills it. He reflects on the wonder and sadness of communication, hopes for diverse intentions and forms over time.
Yeah, lamenting simplification, acknowledging the difficulty of conveying deep meaning through art or words.
He gives this image. The standard sign against the sunset, meaning known only to WE, shows the limits of sharing deep feelings except through shared experience. Worries future communication might become just shallow idioms. Contrasted this sharply with stark imagery. White crystals, white salt, white wing, white bones, dries feathers, dried flesh, dried rocks, dried sand, dead bird, dead lake, dead sand, dead land.
That bleak imagery is powerful, isn't it? A real counterpoint to shared meaning, highlighting decay, finality. Really stark.
He offers advice. No mistakes. Just do your best now. Mistakes guide you to trust instincts. He even flips pride and failure. A loss of pride might cause a fall.
Offering a more nuanced, unexpected view on cause and effect. The subtle role of ego. Interesting.
He uses the hologram analogy, arguing about size when seeing different parts stops us cooperating to see the whole detail. Values collaboration for bigger understanding, touches on chaos order cycles, introduces the hologram collective clarity beyond Plato's cave shadows.
Advocating for a holistic collaborative approach, right? True clarity comes from seeing the whole picture together.
He notes nearing the edge of real time and a weighted necessity, presents different views of the universe, finite steady state, higher order, all at once notes solipsist misunderstand, discusses history as living past, present, future, emphasizes dreaming, how it works, individual expression.
Stressing the interconnectedness of time and our individual role in making sense of it all.
He playfully suggests time travel at the speed of enlightenment, contrasts the hawks and snakes approaches to life, notes the complexity of the human path of least resistance, presents cyclical way-back imagery. Silence, melting rocks, infinite space, eternal time, return point.
Using these vivid metaphors to explore navigating life, journeys of understanding, self-discovery.
Poses the odd question. What was Louis Sullivan doing in the broom closet? Links it to Irish honors, blessing curse. Notes are crutches, supports dependencies, vary, internal war, futility versus provocation, advises, be free, dolce far niente, carefree idleness.
Touching on tradition, inner conflict, meaning, purpose, and the value of freedom, even productive idleness.
Presents the metaphor. Phoenix frozen in a salty shell for trapped potential. Discusses emptiness when meaning is revealed. Living is the meaning.
Highlighting the journey, the experience itself, over static answers. That's key.
Offers a cosmic view. Universe folding back, awaiting a magnificent pulse. Includes Shinichi Suzuki quotes. Art expresses the whole personality, exists for humanity, urges save the world.
Bringing in broader views on art's purpose and potential impact, individual and collective.
Shares Alan Watts quotes. Interconnectedness in forests. We are the vastness seen through telescopes. Introduces William James. Suggestive revelations. Belief creating fact.
Profound insights there on our relationship with nature and the power of belief shaping reality.
Presents Sartre. Being in itself, existence through thought, follows with the Zen proverb. Those who know don't tell, and those who tell don't know.
More fundamental ideas about existence, consciousness, and the limits of language for deep understanding.
Includes Henri Bergson. Intelligence as tool-making, needing faculties beyond intellect for reality, exploring unconscious, perception immobilizing, pure vision of matter.
Bergson stressing limits of pure intellect, importance of other ways of knowing, intuition. Good points.
Shares Teilhard de Chardin. Satisfaction in giving, we constantly recreate each other. Presents Lamarck. Habits forming second nature, insensible change in living things.
Introducing broader evolutionary and social dimensions to understanding human experience and connection.
Includes Arthur Koestler. Defining courage, creativity as self-learning, originality marks genius. Creativity starts where language ends. Shares Carl Jung. Art originates in fantasy. Irritation leads to self-understanding, cosmos and chaos, creation from play, debt to imagination, mind's pendulum sense nonsense, no need to believe what's known.
Powerful quotes on creativity's essence, the unconscious, and that crucial difference between belief and direct knowing.
Incorporates John Fowles' The Magus, desire to be, hazard self-preservation, self-acceptance through experience, dead lived by love, big questions answerable only by self. Presents Dostoevsky. Secrets we keep from ourselves, instant connection with strangers.
Literary excerpts offering deep, sometimes unsettling insights into human psychology, motivation, relationships.
Includes J.D. Salinger, artist concerned for perfection, money blues, not knowing until doing, meaning what isn't fully understood, slight unhappiness of being an artist. Shares John Updike. Activity becomes creative with care, art as space for spirit, aiming for a vague spot east of Kansas, value is attributed, John Barth.
More intimate glimpses into the artist's world, motivations, struggles, perspectives on craft and life.
Incorporates Lawrence Durrell. Joyous compromise through art, mirroring secret wishes, consistency contrary to life. Concludes with Aldous Huxley. Ecology of art, doing your own thing, assuming it contributes to nature's balance.
These further explore art's purpose, impact, reinforcing individual voice and authentic expression.
Camblin himself then offers this deeply personal bit about images dissolve and shift, the meaninglessness of past-future alone, the tiring work of holding chaos, difficulty capturing truth, ending with the frightening freedom in his few truly independent pieces.
Give us this intimate look into his own creative struggles, his evolving grasp of truth and meaning in the process. Really revealing.
He explores consumer art, the challenge of creating unique intimacy versus superficial recognition, notes concept replacing traditional standards, questions compromises, reflects on his teaching evolution, assumption, capitulation, then true teaching. Ends with the metaphor. Hidden ego following like goldfish waste.
Offering his critiques of the art world, evolving value, and the ego's persistent influence, even in selfless acts.
Okay, let's shift to the biographical details from the PDF. We know Bob Camblin, born Oklahoma 1928, grew up in an artsy household, involved in art early on.
Yeah, and his early life in Ponca City, 30s and 40s, sounds fascinating. The Marland Estate, the pioneer woman statue, suggested influences, right? Along with that BV symbol for his mother, and The Wizard of Oz noted as a big impact.
Hints a picture of that specific cultural backdrop shaping him. His friendship with Forrest Harrisberger started in high school, seems really important, shared art journey, military service, Kansas City Art Institute together.
And Camblin was apparently a huge reader. Emerson, I Ching, haiku, haiga. You can see how that influenced his simple but deep style. They sketched the California coast together in the Air Force Reserve, too. More shared experience.
His Fulbright to Italy sounds like a major turning point. The Uffizi Gallery, the Capuchin Catacombs, those mummies, they clearly had a lasting impact on his abstract figurative style.
And the symbolism in paintings like Birth of Venus for KPFT Radio and Flora with Hidden Images shows him weaving contemporary culture and personal meaning together. His Fulbright work got early recognition, too, in big shows.
He moved from map making to teaching at good institutions, eventually landing at Rice University in Houston in '67. That move seems significant. Houston's art scene embraced him, unlike Salt Lake City, apparently.
His St. Bambola series marked a conscious shift, wanting to turn off his myth-making machine, move beyond his earlier Cicada series. He hit the ground running in Texas with lots of exhibitions right away.
He had strong views on galleries and museums, didn't like painting for money, had a specific idea of how a show should work, emphasized the artist's environment, less interference, let viewers see the process. Pretty unique stance.
Yeah, clear vision for how art should be met, uncomfortable with the commercial side. His approach to the art game faith, hard work, seeing stumbling blocks as stepping stones, those water jars in paintings, shows a pragmatic but philosophical outlook.
His Scarecrow series, inspired by Günter Grass, started with spring renewal, then grew into myths, legends, with metamorphic bits like lobster shells, larva shells. Later drawings had text disguise and clues. Made you think about words versus art, like Tom Wolfe's The Painted Word.
That deliberate ambiguity, the text maybe not matching the image, was key. Engaging the viewer, making them question, puzzle it out. He wanted people to explore his art, find things, even put in extra data problems, codes, and traps.
He deliberately used ambiguous lines, contradictory objects, writings meant to be figured out, pushed back against easy reality like surrealism, wanted to reinterpret Goya for the 20th century like Cézanne did with Poussin.
Clearly wanted to build on past masters but with a modern view. And he cultivated that mystery, comparing himself to a magician, added to his enigmatic image.
Early 50s work had social protest. Mid-50s combined social realism and non-objective stuff, inspired by Cremoni, Etruscan figures, wide range. And the Uffizi Capuchin influence from the Fulbright keeps coming up as formative.
Later, he focused on large drawings as finished works, including corrections right in them, like The Descent from the Cross. Showed the process. In the 60s, tried combining Hugo van der Gogh's poetry with Goya's emotion. Experimented with aging paper, made the series of masks.
Used a muted palette, he said, to harmonize with the drawings. His return to Houston in the '70s was a big synthesis period. Brought movements together, tried turning subjective, symbolic stuff into mystical experiences for the viewer. Explored birth, death, regeneration, metamorphosis with hidden meanings referencing Freud, De Chirico, Grunewald, Kazantzakis, Grass. Encouraged viewers use Gestalt psychology, but kept a light touch about art's seriousness.
The 80s saw his myth-making get more poignant. Drawings and watercolors intertwined, illusionistic deep surfaces hinting at hidden images you only see with focus, sensitive drawing over obvious stuff. The ambiguity multiplied. The closer you look, secret images emerging over time, leading to real knowing.
His book, Zen and the Art of Enlightenment, is called A Conversation Between Art and Philosophy. Transforming ordinary things, figure 4 trap, tattooed arm, frog into things for contemplation. Drawings as visible paradoxes, idea blueprints, themes, illusion, traps, fear, time, self-made, stillness, offers questions, riddles, not answers.
Louis Casey's Forward connects art movements to changing perception, resonating with Zen, I Ching intuition, interconnectedness, cycles, links direct experience to expressionism, I Ching to cubism. Notes how Camblin blends abstraction and symbolism, prompts contemplation like spiritual practice, ekphrastic dialogue, leads to self-inquiry, archetypes emerging, mirroring I Ching shifts, accepting interchange.
So the art and text are catalysts for personal discovery, awakening intuition. He's seen as enigmatic, controversial, his work scarce and sought after. The book aimed to show intimate drawings, musings, 1950-74, meant for private view, unfiltered thoughts.
Critics noted his evolution. Moser, fascination with life cycles, Fried, blend of drawing watercolor, Texas overview. His pioneering Lucius Volantes style, 70s, inspired by data surrealism dots, dashes creating optical illusions, active viewer participation like Escher, Dali. Later works, Big Al, Descent from the Cross, showed mastery, symbolic storytelling. Legacy of innovation, inspiration.
The PDF has quotes about him: Pete Gershon, George O. Jackson Jr., Earl Staley, Penny Serling, Carolyn Farb, Southwestern Historical Quarterly. They highlight enigmatic nature, influence, collaboration, questioning attitude, free spirit, autobiographical art, the book's intimacy. Earl Staley's reflection is particularly moving. Close friendship, studio, B&E Productions shows, Camblin's later nomadic life, unique studio, Wizard's Den, Mr. Peanut persona, anonymity, moves to Oregon, Louisiana, discomfort returning to Houston before death, failed show attempts, fundraising after stroke, enduring friendship. Paints a really full picture.
It certainly does. Gives you so many facets of the man and the artist. Invaluable context.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, a few things really stick out, don't they? Camblin's art, his writings, they're always asking you, the listener, to look past the surface. It echoes those Zen ideas, questioning perception, looking for those brief moments of real clarity.
Absolutely. His work is full of paradox, personal symbols, deliberate mystery. It really demands you engage, challenges how you normally see things.
And it makes you think about your own veils of perception, right? Those assumptions, filters that shape your reality. Maybe you can take a second to think about your own moments of satori, those flashes of insight you might get day to day, even if you don't call them that.
Yeah, exactly. Or how you might try to, as Camblin said, step off the train of thought sometimes, just to get a fresh angle, maybe uncover something you'd missed in your own experience.
Which leads to a final thought for you listening. Given Camblin's whole thing about hidden meanings, art as a puzzle, what secrets, big or small, might be hiding in plain sight in your life, waiting for you to just shift your perspective a little bit and see them?
It's a great question to ponder. Really brings it home.
Definitely something to think about. We really encourage you to look up Bob Camblin's art online. Lots of ways to get a visual sense of what we've been talking about. And keep those philosophical questions buzzing around. You never know what surprising personal discoveries they might spark for you.